Hello, I'm Rebecca, the founder of triiyo, and welcome to PEP Talks with triiyo. triiyo is the leading solution for workplaces to support their people during every life transition, from starting a family to retiring and every life event in between. On PEP Talks with triiyo, we chat to our expert partners for advice on how to best navigate these common, complex, and often messy life stages that happen during our working career. Keep listening as we connect the dots between life and work with the simple aim of education and empowerment. After all, life happens at work. Today on PEP Talks with triiyo, we're speaking with one of our wellbeing experts, Joel Feren, media dietitian and nutrition consultant, and also known as the nutrition guy. We're going to be discussing men's health. Joel, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me on, Rebecca.
It's a pleasure. Firstly, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do?
Yeah, look, I said I'm a dietitian. I wear a number of different hats. So I feel like I'm a bit of an everywhere man, but yeah, I do media. I'm a media spokesperson for Dietitians Australia. I'm a recipe developer. I work closely in food industry, do a little bit of consulting in aged care. I do some corporate speaking as well. And I've just taken on a new role doing some sessional lecturing as well. So bit of a jack of all trades.
And you forgot your most important role, new dad.
Well, new dad for the second time. Yes.
Second time. Amazing. Well, congratulations. So
Thank you.
I've got to say, it's fantastic that you're here actually speaking and putting your words together with a 6-week-old at home. So thank you for
After
taking
my
the time out.
after my daughter was born, I used to make the joke that the link between my brain and my mouth was completely severed. I feel like I'm doing a little bit better the second time around.
You've been in training.
Yeah, but stop me if I start slurring.
Look, it will just make the listeners who have been in that situation all the more comfortable, don't worry. So our first question today is, why is men's health important and what are the issues facing men?
Yeah, look, I feel like it's something that we don't talk enough of, men's health, and we're really good at focusing on women's health and some of the issues facing women. But on the flip side, I don't know, I kind of feel like there's no one shining a spotlight on men's health issues. We have Men's Health Week once a year, which is great because it does shine that spotlight on some of the issues facing men. But I kind of feel like it goes by the wayside for the rest of the year. So, look, we know that men don't live as long as women. Current statistics show we still live 4 to 5 years less than women, and we die from every non-sex specific disease, things like colon cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and mental health issues. So it's a real issue. And, what excites me about working in this space is that there's so much we can do from a diet and lifestyle perspective. And it's something that, I'm keen to explore with you during this interview.
So let's have a look at some of these things. Obviously, mental health and suicide are really high in terms of men. From that brain gut connection, is there, there is a thing there, right? So what can men do in terms of their nutrition and what they consume and do on a daily basis from a food liquid perspective?
Yeah.
What are your tips there? How can they're starting from no knowledge. What do they do? What are the steps they need to take to really start improving that brain gut connection?
There's so much to unpack here. And I feel like as a nutrition professional, it's really exciting to work in this space because we're really at the tip of the iceberg. And it's this firm link between what we eat and its impact on mood has really just been discovered in the last 5 or so years. So we used to feel like there was an association. People who ate better tended to have better mental health, but was it because they had better mental health to start with, that maybe they chose better foods, or was it the other way around, or something else in there? I kind of feel like, I've got to caveat this discussion by saying that it's one piece of someone's complex puzzle. It's potentially one part of their management plan, but it's definitely something that we can exert some control over. So you're right. We do know that there's that firm link now between what we eat and its impact on gut. And there is a strong line of communication between the brain and the gut as well. It's what we call a bidirectional relationship. So it's a two-way street In terms of giving you some top line advice on how to best, I guess, manage your gut, which will then hopefully have some mental health benefits, it's really things like plant-based foods. So I'm not necessarily pushing vegetarian or vegan diets here, but we need to be more plant-focused. And we know that including more plant-based foods, they're the ones that are going to be rich in fiber. They're the ones that are going to be rich in these plant bioactive compounds that can enrich the wonderful bacteria in our gut. But more than that, it's things like fermented dairy as well, maybe cutting back on our red meat consumption as well. But, if we're focusing on men really do drop the ball when it comes to nutrition. We know that by and large, the whole population does here in Australia. We tend to fall well short on our fruit and veggie requirements. So I like to take the baby step approach. And if you're listening to this, it's not about, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think we need to just make some small, subtle changes to our diet and continue to build on it as well. So might be getting that extra piece of fruit in a day, because we know that half of us meet our fruit requirements. So if you can get that extra piece of fruit in, get an extra serve of veggie or two, and then just continue to build on that. Hopefully these changes will turn into lasting habits, and that's going to allow you to put your best foot forward. But if I could just focus on the research, some research is actually showing that if you modify your diet, you can actually reduce depressive symptoms by up to 30%.
That's huge.
So, and there's a real push now from clinicians, mental health clinicians, so psychologists, psychiatrists, and doctors, to actually look at diet and lifestyle measures as a first-line therapy to help better manage somebody with mental health issues. Because the Royal Commission into Mental Health a few years ago acknowledged that we tend to use medication too often. It's sort of like that and sure, medication might be the right strategy for somebody, but we tend to over medicate. So it might be worth looking at some other options. And there's a long list in someone's arsenal. It could be things like meditation and mindfulness and music and art therapy and counseling, cognitive behavioral therapy. But let's not forget the role of diet and lifestyle.
Even increasing the volume of vegetables in your diet would, make you feel fuller. It's going to also take that taste away from in terms of seeking sweet foods and, all of that, the high fat processed foods that, sort of you tend to don't want loads of vegetables and fruit when you're filling up on the naughty stuff. So even just that shift will start to have a change in terms of, your heart, your cholesterol, your weight. So subtle shifts, as you say, those small steps can actually have a huge impact.
You're right. And something that I try to get across as well, it's not about taking something away. It's about what we can add back in, because it does have that flow on effect. So if you can rejig the portions on your plate, maybe focusing more on the plant-based foods, the whole grains, the vegetables, maybe less of the meat, which tends to be the hero on the plate in the Australian diet, particularly with blokes. Yes. So, I'm not taking meat away from the listeners, but maybe, it's about reducing the size of the meat on the plate and focusing more on those veggies. And you're right, it's going to keep us fuller for longer, and potentially going to reduce some of those other behaviors, seeking out other things later at night, because if you're full from dinner, you might not need that top up later on. So it's just an interesting one to play around with.
So we spoke about men living longer, men not living as long as women, but men who are married do live longer than men who are unmarried. So if we're talking to single guys or men who are unmarried, what can they do if they're looking after their own health, and it's super easy to chuck a steak on the barbie and have a meat diet, or have, loads and loads of takeaways. What would your sort of go-to meals be for a single guy that really wants to start focusing on their health, but perhaps they don't have, you know, a huge amount of time to be prepping, which, you know, for me is one of the secrets to helping myself have a healthy diet, you know, to having some healthy food in the fridge that I can go to really quickly, as opposed to, you know, grabbing toast and butter, which is possibly one of my favorite meals.
Yeah.
You know, what is a meal that's easy and quick for a guy to make that isn't a nutritionist or a chef, but is going to give them high levels of nutrition, fill them up, and really set them on the way to better health?
I mean, the list is really endless. I think you've uncovered a few things here. I think one of the issues that I see for a lot of people, men and women, is that lack of preparation. And I think if you can plan ahead, you're going to put your best foot forward. So, doing a weekly shop, making sure you've got fresh fruit, fresh vegetables on the go, but at the same time, make use of frozen veggies, tinned veggies, because they are so nutritious, so versatile, and they're bloody convenient. So, why wouldn't you use them?
Yeah.
So, and I, you know, I've learned from experience as well. And I think a lot of people go, "Oh, you're a dietitian. You've got the perfect diet, and you always know what to do." And it's bollocks, can I say? You know, and I learned the hard way when my daughter was born 3 years ago. Everything, you know, along with that connection between my brain and my mouth, everything else went by the wayside. I couldn't even fathom going to the supermarket, doing a weekly shop, getting home, unpacking the groceries. I had to rely on some of these meal delivery services. And it took me a few weeks to go, hang on, if I could just make sure I've got, you know, the veggie crisper full and I've got the pantry staples and things ready to go in the fridge, I can actually whip up something pretty healthy, pretty tasty as well. Because I think it's got to be it's
Oh
got to
yeah,
be a
no one wants to eat
combination of the
cardboard, do
two.
they? Yeah.
Exactly. It's got to be tasty. Let's not forget that you know, that's an important part of why we eat and potentially
Mm.
what we eat as well. So now, second time around, I make sure that I've got things like tofu and eggs and canned beans, and I've got frozen veggies on the go in my freezer. And you know, when can I say shit hits the fan, I've sort of got things that are ready to go. I mean, things like one of the things that we love doing, and keep in mind that we're mostly vegetarians, so we don't actually eat meat, but we've got things like bean tacos on the go. I make fried rice, tofu stir fries. Last night I whipped up a pumpkin soup using frozen pumpkin and tinned beans. Really didn't take that long to make. Could be things like tinned tuna. If you've got chicken fillets, perhaps in the freezer, or a piece of
Mm.
red meat. I mean, it's just something that you can whip up really quickly. I love using those brown rice microwavable cups. I think they're
Yeah.
incredibly convenient. You can even get microwavable pasta as well. So we've always got those things on hand, and particularly with a toddler. Last night, picked up my daughter from childcare. She got home at 5:15, and she was demanding dinner. So I sort of had to think on my feet. What can I make her? Because I didn't necessarily have that time, because usually she's eating at 5:30. So I think
Mm.
if you're armed with those pantry staples and those essentials, you can sort of, you know, operate on the fly.
Mm.
I mean, I've got a fond relationship with my stomach, so I'm always thinking about my next meal, and I get that, you know, some people aren't like that, but I think, you know, definitely planning ahead, making sure you've got things that are ready, accessible, and always surrounding yourself with healthy options. There's this wonderful concept called crowding, and it's a really basic premise that if you crowd yourself with healthy foods, you're more likely to choose those foods. So if you surround yourself with veggies and, you know, a packed fruit bowl and, you know, healthy breads and rice, you're more likely to choose those things
Mm.
compared to if you've got an empty fridge and an empty pantry, but you've got a block of chocolate. You're more likely to go the block of chocolate, or more likely to, you know, rely on things like Uber Eats and whatever else is available. So I think if you can, as I've been saying, if you can plan ahead,
Mm.
you're definitely halfway there.
Yeah, I remember being told once, you know, boil some eggs, because boiled eggs are a great high protein, highly nutritious snack if you needed to, you know, if you need to go, you know, go to something quickly.
Definitely. And you can build a whole meal around something like eggs. You can make an omelette, you can make a
Yeah.
frittata. As I said the other night, I made fried rice with an omelette on top. I mean, it's just so simple. I feel like we're in the MasterChef age where we've sort of got this perception that we have to create these lavish and, you know, mouth-watering
Yeah.
meals, but really we don't
They've
have
got to look
to.
like
You
you've come
can
out of a restaurant. What's wrong with a jacket potato and tuna mayonnaise?
absolutely, and I know for me, being in the position that I'm in, the life stage with, two young kids, sometimes that's what dinner looks like. It might
Yeah.
be steamed potato with some cheese on top and, some cut up
Maybe we
veggies on the
need to drop
side.
our
It's nothing that I'm going to put
expectations.
on my Instagram,
Yeah,
but,
yeah. But that's the
let's be
thing.
real.
These things are not Insta worthy, are they? We're
And
forced
I'm
to.
probably to blame there because a lot of the content that I put up on my Instagram, sort of
Maybe
nice,
you should start doing
appealing.
like the real dinners.
Yeah, I've been a little bit stagnant on my Instagram. So if you jump on my page and say I haven't posted for a few weeks, that's why. But you're right. I think we probably need to shift the conversation, and it needs to be more achievable. Let's lower the bar. It's okay to use frozen veg and tinned veg, and it's okay to whip up a meal that contains eggs
Yeah.
for dinner because hey, they're nutritious, they're tasty. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's
they're
almost the
convenient.
problem with this social media world that we live in, that, you sort of follow these things and think, yeah, I've got all the good intentions, I'm going to get healthy. Then you look at it and go, there's no way I'm going to even be able to do that. Don't even know where to start. And, all of these ingredients, they're difficult to get. Whereas we almost need that sort of the real life, this, you can whip this up in 10 minutes. The food is freely available because, that's the other thing. Food now is becoming so expensive and some foods, some fresh foods are becoming, the cost of living is going up, right? So to know that it's actually okay and highly nutritious to use frozen vegetables, which are far cheaper than fresh vegetables, we can still achieve what we want from a nutrition goal within a reasonable budget is critical, particularly for families, growing families, and in this current environment.
Absolutely. And if I can just jump in, this is really top of mind because there was a study just done by the University of Wollongong that actually showed that it is more cost effective to follow a healthier diet, to include more of these plant foods, to maybe include less of the animal-based foods. So you're going to save $1. It's going to be better for your health, and the flow-on effects are incredible.
Mm.
So, maybe it's a shift in that mentality as well. It's not necessarily about going out and buying a $10 iceberg lettuce. It's making use of things that are in season and things that are, maybe a little bit less premium from a
Yeah.
quality perspective, but just as good for you.
Yeah. Can we just touch on water? Because water is one thing that is, I think, we don't take into account enough in terms of how much it can positively impact our health. I've sort of read that if you get the right levels of watering, it can help, stabilize weight and, weight loss, and can it potentially improve sleep and obviously skin and all of these other things? Is water an
Mm,
often overlooked part of a healthy diet?
absolutely. I think so much we're always focusing on nutrition, but what about hydration? And one of the key findings of this study was to make water your preferred fluid of choice. So, and you're right, it has enormous power from mood to concentration to sporting performance to sleep, to things like joints as well. And you're right, we probably don't consume enough water. For those of you tuning in on YouTube, I've got my sparkling water here, so I practice what I preach. But yeah, I think you're right, even from a weight management perspective as well, because a lot of the time we confuse a feeling of thirst for a feeling of hunger. So
Mm.
if you're feeling that dip, you might, reach out into your pantry for a snack food when all you really need is a glass of water.
And what is the amount that we should be drinking? Is it just a set 3 litres a day or something, or is it based on body weight? What if we were going to go, talking at the beginning around, let's just set some really basic goals. If one of them is, I'm just going to increase my water intake this first month, that's all I'm going to focus on is increasing my water. What would be the go-to litres of water that we should be looking at a day?
It's the $64,000 question. Everybody's different in terms of their hydration needs. So it's dependent on things like age, activity levels, things like weight as well. So all those things need to be taken into consideration. Look, let's just encourage people to maybe consume a little bit more. I think sometimes there are these, wellness types and celebrities who are pushing things like 3-4 liters. It's unnecessary for the bulk of the population. But I think if you can get your 8 glasses a day, and I think let's not discount some of the other fluids as well. So tea and coffee also contribute, and something like milk. Yes, I've just said water is the preferred fluid of choice, but milk is highly nutritious and it will contribute to your hydration needs as well. So we definitely want people to be consuming some of these wonderful fluids. Things like tea, coffee have numerous health benefits. So you don't necessarily need to just be having water to meet your fluid requirements.
And maybe limit some of the caffeine after midday, because that certainly inhibits my ability to have a decent night's sleep.
Definitely. So I think one of the recommendations is, have your last coffee 12 hours before you plan to go to sleep.
Oh, so God, early.
But there are herbal options, there are decaf options available. And we certainly know that there are so many wonderful health benefits of drinking tea. So, make it a green tea, make it a different type of herbal tea, which don't have the caffeine.
So if we were to wrap up, the top 3 tips we've covered today is add more vegetables to your diet in any which way, even frozen vegetables. So every single meal, make sure there's some vegetables on that plate. Increase your water intake to around 8 glasses a day, however it comes, and limit coffee 12 hours before you plan to go to bed.
Yeah. Can I throw another one in there, particularly for blokes, I think, as well? I think, all good and well focusing on diet, but let's just touch on exercise. And I hate the term exercise and I despise the term physical activity. I think we've got to have a reshift into the way we view things like exercise. And from my perspective, I always talk about movement, moving your body in a positive way. And we know that it has a number of benefits. And people would always say, what's the best exercise for weight loss? And I think if you're simply exercising for weight loss, you're missing out on all the other benefits. Things like sleep and hormone production and mood and mental health, even things like memory and our cognition later in life. So I saw a study recently that just said dancing is a wonderful way to get your endorphins up, and it's a wonderful way to move your body. And it's something that I love doing with my 3-year-old daughter. We do, we've called it silly billies, just dancing around the house, throwing our arms around. And for me, that's really positive. And I think for a long time, we've got it in our heads that we have to go for a long cycle or a long run, or we have to pump iron in the gym and that's our exercise. But it could just be as simple as doing some silly billies with the kids at home, playing soccer in the backyard, having a kick of the footy at the park. Any of these, what seem mundane, but these are actually wonderful activities that not only strengthen that bond and that relationship with your kids, but also have a flow-on effect, because they are going to be beneficial for your body, your mood and mental health as well, and potentially lower some of those risk factors for disease later in life. So.
Music is great for your mental health. It completely uplifts your mindset and your energy and your positive.
Depends what you listen to, but definitely.
That's true. And I think, one of the other ways that men, particularly if they are, suffering from mental health as well, so that we're in this space, if men could get together and go for a walk with other males to talk in an open, fresh space, the positive effects of combining just movement in the fresh air and talking with people that would have such a powerful impact on them as an individual. And if they have a family, on the family. So they're really small
You're right.
steps, aren't they? But sometimes it's, there's so much information out there, it's difficult to know where to start. It feels just too big. But
That's the
these are
thing.
amazing small
So
steps.
absolutely. Small steps. Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to turn around tomorrow and drastically improve your health and, make 10 changes and expect them to be, lasting forever. Let's just lower the bar, make it small and subtle and just build on it. And it might,
Yeah.
as I said before, from a dietary perspective, it might just be adding a couple of things in, reducing the portion of your meat. From a lifestyle perspective, it might be cutting back a little bit on the alcohol, focusing more on movement and moving your body in a positive way. And maybe it's about increasing that social interaction. Maybe
Mm,
that's why married men live longer.
maybe. And they're probably having, they're lovely women cooking them nice, healthy dinners. Obviously, you also
I,
cook nice, healthy dinners.
yeah, I'd like to
I would
think
say you're
the
maybe a
trend is
rarity
changing. I hope
in the
not. I hope
kitchen.
more men are getting into the kitchen. And that's something that I've been really passionate about since I've started working in this space, is really encouraging, empowering men to, get in the kitchen. Why not? Have a crack. I always say, what's the worst thing that can happen? I mean,
You
the worst
burn
thing that can
food.
happen is you make a dud meal and you learn
Yeah.
from it, you grow from it, and you change it the next time. So
Yeah.
it's something that I find really cathartic and therapeutic. It's something that I really enjoy, and it's
Mm.
really rewarding as
Yeah.
well.
That's also
It's my
where
happy
some of,
place.
yeah, the meal delivery services can be, hugely beneficial for helping, families and individuals eat healthily, because you get the food delivered, you've got your recipe, it's all there, and also portion control is already done for you. So if
You're
you're going
right.
to start somewhere, that's a pretty simple and great place just to go, okay, just tell me what to do the shopping for me, do the delivery for me, it turns up on my doorstep and I'm away.
Definitely, definitely. It does tick a number of boxes. I guess from my experience, I kind of realized I could do it myself. I could
Yeah.
get the ingredients myself. I could prepare the meals. But you're right. If someone's working from zero, we're not
Yeah.
expecting you to go to 100 within a few days. It's just making those small, subtle changes.
Yeah,
So
learning
if
to
if that's
love
a positive
cooking.
step, yeah, learn to love cooking, experiment, try different things.
Mm.
That's the other thing that we're recommending at the moment. Back to the rising cost of living, is maybe being savvy enough and having that know-how to be able to substitute ingredients.
Mm. Yeah, if you love looking at cooking and looking after your health, it becomes a totally different way that you view the chore of eating and sort of
Yeah,
finding food. It becomes a way of sharing and joy and looking after yourself. So it's a great change in perspective.
definitely, definitely. So I hope we've sown some seeds.
I hope so. I think so. So, just want to touch before we leave, if anyone wants to get any more advice or support or help from you, you've got an ebook out that can be found on the nutritionguy.com.au called The Nutrition Guy's Kitchen. So that is dedicated to men or everyone, or targeting helping men in
It's
their health
a bit of
steps.
an all sorts. It was a lockdown six project, so it was a bit on the fly. But yeah, look, a lot of those recipes can be for blokes. It's a plant focused recipe book. There's a couple of fish recipes. You can always adapt them if you like to account for meat.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's you know they're definitely achievable. They're definitely something that you can whip up in a short amount of time. That's my motto: work smarter in the kitchen, not harder. So you're not going to find recipes that take 3 hours and have 30 or 40 different ingredients. The average Joe can whip them up. So feel free to check them out. And if you want some kitchen inspo, you can also find me on Instagram. I'm the Nutrition Guy. And I share some little tidbits and health hacks and other healthy recipes. So I look forward to connecting with you.
And if we've got any corporates listening, then you're also available for speaking and cooking lessons in the workplace, which would be an awesome way to start your workforce, just, initiating some healthy habits. I love that too.
Absolutely. I think it's all going to get better at talking about the how. And I
Yeah.
think that just consolidate some of the healthy eating messages that I can share, how to include more vegetables, how to include more plant-based proteins, how to cut back on meat, what type of healthy snacks to include. So the list is endless.
Maybe we
I
should
offer
get some
bespoke
corporate.
packages as well.
Yeah.
So if you are a corporate client of triiyo and you'd like to get in touch, feel free to flick me an email.
Maybe we should get some corporates to do some challenges around, adding meat, adding vegetables to every diet or something like that. It's something we should think about.
Could do a meatless challenge.
Yeah. Oh, Joel, thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely talking to you. And looking forward to connecting again soon. And best of luck is your role as dad for the second time.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. It's been great.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.